I was curious to see what different organizations were saying about stress. So I found the mind.org.uk talks about stress as stress is how we react when we feel under pressure or threatened. It usually happens when it usually happens when we're in a situation that we don't feel we can manage or control. So that's mind.org. The Cleveland Clinic says stress is a normal human reaction that happens to everyone. In fact, the human body is designed to experience stress and react to it. So that's a definition from the Cleveland Clinic. And I have one last one to share. As per UNICEF, stress is a common feeling that affects children as much as adults, just differently. I thought that was interesting, affecting children, because sometimes we don't realize how stress affects children. We think children are immune to everything, but actually they feel very deeply. So UNICEF also shared that stress is a common feeling we get when we feel under pressure, overwhelmed, or unable to cope. Small amount of stress can be good for us and motivate us to achieve goals like taking an exam or giving a speech. Yep, I was stressed out this morning, and Jared helped me out. And coming on, I also had these nervous feeling in my stomach, and I had to, work through those. Because I know at the end I feel good. Now I feel good. Yes, so small amount of stress can be good for us and motivate us to achieve goals like taking an exam or giving a speech. But too much of it, especially when it feels out of control, can negatively impact our mood, physical and mental well-being, and relationships. Does that sound true to you? Yeah, it rings true to me. So at Merciless's funeral, I was really touched when Silver Cat shared about the stress Merciless went through, as well as when he said when a man is going through stress in Jamaica, they turn to liquor to wipe away all the stress. That really touched something in me. And it's interesting because my family owns a bar. Yeah. Anyways, that's another topic. We'll get to that at some point. So the thing is that alcohol and drugs are a temporary solution. Of course, I think we all know that. But over time, you need more and more to wipe away the stress as the stress keeps growing underneath. It's like having stress. I'm trying to give you an image here with my hand. It's like having like stress, and alcohol is like covering it up or trying to wipe it away. But in reality, you cannot wipe it away. Underneath, it just festers and it grows. It can grow, and you just need more alcohol to keep it in check. Yes. So what if there's another way, an alternative to liquor, to drugs, or to any other way we cope with stress that may have some side effects, meaning that it may cover up the problem, but it also creates other problems for us. Because of course, we know that liquor and drugs put a strain on our family and our relationships. And when we are under the influence, we're not our true self. So we're going to explore this. Stressless is not about getting rid of anything. It's about understanding what we are working with. So I like to stress on the point that we want to respect stress and the way it works. We're not creating a war inside of ourselves, where we're going to find stress and get rid of it or kill it or whatever you want to say. But if you're experiencing stress or distress, I want to know that it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It is normal. Stress is a normal part of life. I have a reminder for that. or not. Okay. So I just repeat again that you're not defective or weak if you experience stress. It is your biology. It's your shared human experience. It's our shared human experience. It's our humanness, stress. So it's not about getting rid of it. Here is, we'll talk about the resiliency zone, resiliency zone. Um, and the resilient zone will lay the foundation for us to explore stress as well as tapping into stresslessness. Um, we all have access to the language of our biology, the language of our body, and a way to help us understand the human experience. So, what does this mean? It means that we can work with the capacity and the wisdom of our bodies and our nervous system. And anyone can do this, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, social class, gender. Children can do this. There's also the community resiliency model for children. Okay, so what is the resilient zone? So the resilient zone is sometimes called the OK zone, and it's a state of well-being in mind, body, and spirit. It is our window of tolerance. So these green lines depict um, the boundaries of a resilient zone, and when we're inside the resilient zone, we are able to experience a range of emotions. We're able to maintain the ability to think clearly. All our executive functions are on board, and we respond to situation in a flexible way. So we can still make sound decisions for ourselves, our family, and community. So, within this window of tolerance, the red line depicts our inner experiences. So, or the nervous system changing from moment to moment. So you may notice that there is a dynamic flow between the highs and lows. You see those yellow arrows moving us through the resilient zone, going up and coming down. So there can be times in the day when you feel more stressed and other times when you feel calmer. So there's a natural, normal ebb and flow that's happening in the resilient zone. And let me just bring your attention to the fact that this red line is actually smooth. It's a smooth flow. So stressors can happen during the day and you're still your best self in your mind and your body. So it's not like you're immune from the stress. Stress still happens, but you have this natural flow where you go up and you come down. And the goal is always to widen the resilient zone. So this is a nice diagram and an ideal situation, but the reality is that many of us are not living in this dynamic flow. I know it's true for me. Our nervous system sometimes can, get a little bit wonky. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So let me just check in with you. Are you still with me? Does this make sense? Any questions? Please drop it in the chat. Okay. All right. I know there's a little bit of lag, so I just wait in between my questions. If this sounds very strange for you, give it some time. Keep trying it on. Maybe by the end of this presentation, you will be able to understand a little bit more. Or maybe it's a second presentation. So before we carry on, I just invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and through your mouth. Breathe out, let a sigh out. You can do that one more time. In. Okay, so we'll carry on. The resilient zone, even though there's like this dynamic flow, it does not equal that you're happy all the time. Actually, it's not realistic to expect that one only has only one emotion, happiness, all the time. We have a range of emotions. So when you're in the resilient zone, you may be sad, mad, or even feeling neutral. But the main thing is we're in our zone, so we feel okay with those emotions coming through. So the emotions move us around in the zone. And there's a saying in the community resiliency model circles that when you're in your okay zone, you're good and your best, no, you're your best self in good weather or bad weather. All right, so we're gonna move to the next. So we may be in a resilient zone, even if it's for 5 minutes, we may be in our zone and we'll be feeling fine, doing okay, and then a stressful event happens and it hits our nervous system, hits us like a lightning bolt. And when that happens, we may get bumped out of the okay zone and we may go very high and then come crashing down, as shown by these jagged lines. I just want to emphasize again that this is a normal reaction of the nervous system to stress. It does not mean that something is going wrong. This is actually normal. When So this movement in the nervous system with these jagged lines is called nervous system a dysregulated a dysregulated nervous system. So you remember the smooth line? That is a regulated nervous system. But when it gets like this, it's dysregulated. So when the nervous system is like this, we may sometimes get stuck in the high zone. And when we're stuck there in the high zone, we may be very irritable. We may be anxious, panicky. We may have angry outbursts. We may have physical pain in the body. And sometimes we get stuck in the low zone. And then this is where we become depressed, sad, isolated. We also we may feel quite tired, fatigued, or we may also feel numb. So it's okay to be bumped out, and we're not trying not to be bumped out. We're not trying to always stay in that zone, but instead we want to be able to know when we get bumped out, so we can get back in. So the skills, we'll be talking about some skills to help us get back into the resilience zone, and also what we had earlier, the landed moment or the resiliency pause, is a way to be able to come back in a resilient zone. Okay, so again, this is not weakness, this is just our biology. This is the human biological response to stress. And I'll just share a little bit of my personal experience. So, 12 years of meditative practice, 9 years of living in a monastery. And this is what my nervous system looked like the first 6 months of COVID. I couldn't meditate it away. And in fact, I could not sit and meditate anymore. So this was intergenerational trauma surfacing in my body. So working with my nervous system helped me to break the cycle. I learned about the community resiliency model, and I took to the practicing of the skills, and it really helped. So it doesn't mean that now I'm good and I'll never experience a dysregulated nervous system. No, it just means that now I can come back instead of waiting 6 months. I can come back in 6 minutes or a couple minutes. I can be back in my zone. And remember also the goal is to widen the zone. I will talk about that in a little bit on the next slide, actually. So we don't want to get stuck outside of the zone for too long, because that's when we start to have disorders. So has anyone beside me ever got stuck in the high or low zone? Does that sound familiar for you? Any light bulb going off? I wonder if anyone wants to come on to share. Maybe Damien. I'll just pause just to see if anyone wants to share. And while we pause and wait, I'm inviting you to orient to your space again. And this is, I include this in our presentation just so we can also, as we learn, we can also start practicing these skills. So we're just looking around our space again and noticing that we are okay, we're safe. And you may think that, oh, maybe looking around, what's the point? But the eyes communicate to the nervous system that there's safety. You can say to yourself, oh, I'm safe, but actually the nervous system doesn't understand language. So the simple skills that we do is to communicate with our nervous system. So by looking around your space and seeing that, okay, there's no one here to harm me, I'm okay, the nervous system can settle a little bit more. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Okay. So we're not all born equally, unfortunately. Some are born with a narrow, resilient zone, and some with a wider zone. The goal is always to widen the zone. It can never be too wide. So, sorry, excuse me. We'll be looking at wellness skills to help to widen this zone. So the top area is a narrow, and the bottom you can see is a very wide zone. So I'll also share a story because my Zen master sometimes shared about shared to us that in matter of suffering or even let's say stress, it's about our capacity. So when we have a narrow zone, we can be easily triggered or easily bumped out. But when we have a wider zone, we have more room to move. So something terrible happened, but we're not, we're not out of our zone. We're still inside, maybe on the top edge or low edge, but still we're inside. We're still okay. So my Zen master shared that it's about capacity. So for example, if we take a teaspoon of salt and put in a glass of water, mix it up, that becomes undrinkable. But if you put the same teaspoon of salt in a pond or river, we're able to, we won't be able to taste it. We can, drink that water, provided it's clean. So the same is true about our nervous system. With the narrowness or the wideness, there's more room. So let's get into the first skill we'll practice. It's called Reset Now. So Reset Now involves a few strategies to help us get back in our resilient zone. So something terrible happens, as we saw in the diagram that we get bumped out. Our nervous system is like this. So these are some strategies to help us to get back in. Again, they're simple, but they're deep. So don't underestimate them. They can help the person focus on something outside of the distress or the stress. And by doing that, it decreases the sense of overwhelm. So the strategy also activates parts of the body and the brain to help one come back into balance. And as I said before, it communicates safety to the nervous system. So hence touching stresslessness. So we'll try two strategies together. The first one I'm inviting you into is to push against the wall. So if you have a space where you can get to a wall, I'm inviting you to just place your both hands on the wall. I'll push against this furniture here. And I'm just inviting you to just place your hands on the furniture or the wall and just using the muscle of your body to try to push it as much as you can to see if you can move it. But of course, if it's a wall, it's not going to be able to move. You're pushing it, and you engage all the muscles of your body. So that takes you out of your mind and into your body, and it can help just to take away from whatever is stressful in the mind. So the key here is awareness. Awareness as you practice the strategy. So you want to be aware of your body as you push against the wall or a piece of furniture. The next one, this is also another simple one. It's to touch a surface. So with your hand, I invite you to just put your hand on the surface and touch it. And get curious, just like a child. What are you noticing? The first thing I notice is the temperature of this furniture. You may notice also if it's hard or soft, rough. What does it feel like against your fingers, your hand? Okay, so this is two exercise you can practice. So even if you're in a space with many people and you're feeling a sense of overwhelm, you can quietly do that. You can touch your chair or the table or whatever, or even touch a part of your body and just feeling that part.